Good morning, it's Juan at PSL. Today's video is going to be man unders on the subway. That's the term that we use just in case you're a civilian and you had no idea what we called it. A person is either pushed or falls onto the subway tracks, and the trains come at tremendous speed most of the time, and they don't have the chance to stop. It's too much weight on the train to stop it at a precise manner. So unless the person on the tracks is a considerable distance ahead, then maybe they got a chance to survive and be rescued or whatever the situation is. It is sad. I'm going to tell you it's sad. I've been to many, not by choice, but it was part of my duty to go there and assist with the EMT. You have to do a police report. You got to try to notify the family. Let's just say a lot of these people don't make it. This is almost a cruel way of looking at things, because after you've seen a couple, you get desensitized. In the beginning, you're like, oh my God, you're like, and then you remember it. That's part of your duty to investigate, get all the pieces, and help rescue, get the body off the tracks so we can resume service. At this point, as cruel as it may sound, all we're trying to do is help the transit authority get their train back functioning. I seen it be a couple of hours, depending on the type of investigation that's going to be processed. If it was a criminal thing where somebody pushed them, then you have to investigate more. Don't forget, this is before videos. This is before cell phones. So today, I imagine it must be a lot easier when you got 90 people on the platform videoing the event, either during or after the fact, because people just happen to be videoing. But in my time, that wasn't even a thought. That wasn't even a thought. So it's a cruel thing when you realize you've been desensitized. We were desensitized to the fact that there was always one guy in our shift that had a real big problem. I'm talking about a real big problem. So we would call him to the scene just to see his reaction, and we would laugh. That's how desensitized you get doing police work. And I can say that today, it wasn't right. I'm not telling you this is right. I'm just telling you that this is the way we process such a bad scene, because whatever it is a bad scene. And if it cost them their life or it cost them a limb, there's nothing to be happy about, nothing to be, maybe if you save their life, but when the train goes over a limb, it's almost like it cauterizes it. So there's not a lot of bleeding other than your limb is missing. Like I said, it's not for everybody. Obviously, we didn't choose this. We were subjected to providing police service on it, but we didn't choose this. Of all the things you can choose in law enforcement, responding to a man under I doubt is going to be in your top 50. I'm sure there's other things you would rather do as a cop on patrol. If you work the city, I'm sure you dealt with dead people. So it's kind of similar. you go to an apartment and there's a body there. In our case, we would go to the bathrooms, inspect our bathrooms, and there'll be a body there, and between the smell and the horror, it's a lot. It's a lot to process. Granted, to be a cop, you have to have a different state of mind. You laugh at weird things. In my case, sometimes my humor reflects that, and I try to dial it back depending on who I'm talking to and how sensitive they are. If I notice it was sensitive in other discussions, I'm not going to bring it up in this discussion. But these are things that really happen, and other cops, you might deal with a dead body every now and then. On the subways, it was a little more frequent than you want to admit, especially during holiday season. There was a lot of people that were depressed. The holidays were coming and they couldn't make ends meet, or they couldn't provide. And they thought that was a good reason to jump onto the tracks and end it all. And then you, as a patrol officer, whether you're a rookie or experienced, if it's your station, you have to come provide assistance. And you never feel comfortable with it, but you do get desensitized to the fact that you can, bother your co-workers, as I said before, and just, you push it in the back of your mind. You might be talking about it for the rest of the tour, but after that, it's just another day. Another day is coming, and that poor person is no longer with us. Has he disposed of himself if he jumped in front of a train? It used to be a rumor that if you jumped in front of a train, the transit authority would award you X amount of dollars to your family because they didn't want to go to court. There was so many cases that they didn't want to court. So they figured out a number that would say, this is how much it would cost us to either hire an attorney or have one of our attorneys represent us in court in X amount of days and whatever. And they came up with a formula. And the formula was, your family's going to get X amount of dollars guaranteed if they just settle up front. It's like I'm trying to think the right term, but when you settle without disputing the facts, and and so some people, if they knew this, I don't know if they knew this, but I was disgusted. That would be something that you would consider to leave your family money because things were not going good for you. And I'm one of those people that believes we all have our good days and bad days. And on the bad days, you got to stay strong. It doesn't mean that you're going to fix things. It doesn't, because if you could have fixed it, then it wouldn't be a bad day. But it also means that you shouldn't consider ending your life because the holidays are coming, for example, and you don't have it. That's a term I used to say all the time. If I don't have it, I don't have it. I don't worry about it like some other people do. I just don't have it. And I make peace with that. If we can't get a big sandwich, then we get a small sandwich. If we can't get a small sandwich, then we get a cupcake. But life is still worth living. This is not a criticism of the people that lost their lives. This is just an afterthought that I'm saying to myself, wow, how could somebody think that was a viable option? Like I said, homeless, don't matter. Whatever situation you're in, you deserve to live. You deserve to be able to, come back. I'm not gonna say everybody, but a lot of people come back from situations where it didn't look good, and you have to remember that. This is not isolated just to poor people. Like a lot of my train stations were in poor neighborhoods, so you kind of feel their pain sometimes. But then you remember, hey, I'm struggling out here myself. I'm working overtime. I'm working side jobs. I'm working whatever I have to work to provide for my family. As a young person, that was not an issue. I could work around the clock several days in a row. That's just the way I forced myself to live. I refuse to say, you know, man, that's it. I can't do it. I can't hang out in this world. I refuse that. I mean, and I hope I spread that on to my family. That if you work hard, you keep trying. You keep trying. And once in a while, you're gonna get a break. Once in a while, things are gonna be not so bad, and hopefully things get better. I mean, that's your goal. Your goal is for things to get better, not for you, not to be struggling, not that finances got you down, not that your health got you down. People have come back from bad things. Just tell yourself that. Positive thinking, it works. I'm just explaining with Man Unders. You have to reach a different level in your mind to process this and be able to function and be able to pick up the body parts and be able to, notify the family if it was your duties. A lot of times when I was working, it was the detective's duty to notify the family that somebody had an accident or somebody was under investigation to see what happened to them. So I didn't have to do too many families. I did a couple of families. I did a space case where I actually talked to the guy. Now, a space case, for those of you that don't know, is when you accidentally make contact with the train while it's still moving. So what happens is there's a little gap between the platform and the train. And the train makes your body spin where you fall into this crack. Now, like I said, this might be gruesome for some of you, and I don't mean to gross you out. I'm just reflecting some of my memories. A space case means the body starts spinning into this little, maybe, I'm guessing 6 inches. It could be, it could be less. There was a 6-inch gap between the platform and the train, if you can picture that. Your body doesn't fit in there. Well, guess what? With a space case, it's forced into that. Now, because you spun, all your bones, and I didn't find this out till later, all your bones are crushed. Your mid region is all crushed, and your body's in shock. Now here I come as a brand new junior detective, and the guy's there. He's talking to rescue, and then I have to get his information. I have to notify his family. I have to identify him. He gave me his name, gave me tell my girlfriend or tell my wife, I don't remember, it was years ago, but tell my loved one that I'm sorry I won't be there today. He knew he wasn't going to make it. I knew he wasn't going to make it. But yet we're still having a conversation. So the wrinkle to this case was he had his friend's wallet. So after the fact, I go through the wallet, the name doesn't match what he told me. So now I'm wondering, what the heck is going on? Like I said, I'm a junior detective. I'm an experienced anti-crime cop, but I'm a junior detective. So now I go to follow up, and I go to the hospital where I thought, you know, being a young guy, I thought that he was going to be in a hospital room waiting for me, and I can interview him. But when I get to the room is clean. I asked the orderly, "Yo, what happened to Mr. So and so?" He said, "Oh, he's down in the morgue and this and that, and or equivalent to that." And I'm like, "Oh man!" And the shock hit me because not that long ago I was talking to this guy. We were having a conversation like if he was sitting in the park. He wasn't in pain. He wasn't, other than the fact visually you can see that he didn't fit in that area and he was in that area. Like I said, I apologize again for giving you that visual, but this is, to me, this is the original Dead Man Talking. And I'm a rookie detective. I don't know. I'm learning all this. I'm learning talking to him. I'm learning going to the hospital when he's not there. I'm learning after the fact. What happened was he had his friend's wallet. I didn't have an explanation why he had his friend's wallet, and at this point, it wasn't none of my business anymore. There's no crime unless the friend, makes a police report. There's no crime. But the name on the wallet didn't match the name from the guy I talked to. And I was totally amazed. Like I said, I'm just reliving some of my thoughts from those days. If you're a fellow cop, you're going to understand. I'm sure you dealt with your stuff too, dealing with bodies, dealing with people that got shot or stabbed, and you're able to talk to them. And then later on, when you go to follow up or the detectives go to follow up, they're not alive. And you realize, oh my God, I Dead Man Talking. I don't know if I created this term, but I'm just saying that's what it is. Dead Man Talking. I thought that was a unique experience to share with you. If you stood here this long, I appreciate it. YouTube gives me credits for whatever time you watch my videos. Like and subscribe, please. If you didn't think it was too gruesome, then share it. Share it with other people. I need the audience. I appreciate it, and thank you for your time.